Coming to you from a cozy little condo high atop Old 4th Ward, Atlanta. Welcome to The Ron Show on America One Radio. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
Thank you so much for listening, whether it's on America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn, or wherever you podcast. Lots to get into. Yesterday, we had a visit from the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, one Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who toured the CDC in the aftermath of Friday's shooting. He was met with protesters, of course. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution reporting, this is Alexis Stevens and Shadi Abu Said, met with protesters, one in the name of Steve Monroe, who showed up to protest the secretary's visit after hearing that Kennedy was going to be here. He said he pointed to the bullet-riddled building across the street, Building 21, and counted 8 floors up to his former office. He noted it was one of the windows struck by gunfire during the barrage Friday afternoon. He told reporters, "I wanted the secretary to know that I don't agree with what he says, that his comments have consequences. Certainly that kind of rhetoric was what led to this person thinking this was a way to show his frustration." Monday afternoon, the CDC said Kennedy was given a tour of the damaged areas before meeting with interim DeKalb Police Chief Greg Padrick. Kennedy also met privately with Rose's widow. That would be David Rose, the officer, former Marine, Afghanistan veteran who came home, rookie police officer, and died in the early weeks and months of his career as a DeKalb County police officer. Now, while RFK Jr. had the stones to come here and check out the damage his rhetoric played a role in, he didn't give a public statement. He did, however, rush to the Twitter X platform to leave a statement. "We know how shaken our public health colleagues feel today. No one should face violence while working to protect the health of others. We are actively supporting CDC staff on the ground and across the agency. Public health workers show up every day with purpose, even in moments of grief and uncertainty." Well, it's a little late for that. I'm reading from Maya Holman's piece in the Georgia Recorder. Fired but fighting, a coalition of former U.S. Department of Health, Human Services workers and supporters called for Kennedy to resign from his role as health secretary. Kennedy is directly responsible for the villainization of the CDC's workforce through his continuous lies about science and vaccine safety, which have fueled a climate of hostility and mistrust, the group said in a statement. The ongoing destruction of our public health infrastructure has destroyed the systems meant to prevent tragedies like this from happening. Cuts to CDC's Injury Prevention Center, including programs to reduce gun violence and support mental health, have put our country at greater risk. I'm so glad they mentioned that, by the way, because even the CDC studying gun violence, let alone tying mental health to it in the United States in the aftermath of mass shootings, well, the GOP has pulled funding from that and stonewalled the CDC at every turn. Meanwhile, get this, there has yet to be a statement. It's Tuesday afternoon as I'm doing this show today. There has yet to be a statement from President Donald Trump or the Trump White House whatsoever. I mean, what gives? Finally, a story that kind of distracts the nation from the Epstein files. They've been begging, they've been throwing everything they can at the wall to see if it sticks, to distract us from the Epstein files. They finally got something. It was organic. Sort of, I guess. And they don't want to address it? Incidentally, I'm just curious, while RFK Jr. was in town, did he go by Emory to apologize for pulling $500 million in research funding for cutting-edge vaccine technology? Ooh, there's that word again, the V word. Yeah, Ariel Hart, Amanda Seitz, the Associated Press reporting this on August 7th. The Department of Health and Human Services will pull $500 million in research funding for cutting-edge vaccine technology. Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced Tuesday evening, it was last Tuesday, the canceled work includes a project underway at Emory University in Atlanta. Kennedy wrote in a statement that 22 projects totaling $500 million to develop vaccines and treatments using mRNA technology will be halted. Those include vaccines being developed to fight respiratory viruses like COVID-19 and the flu. The Emory grant was for $749,998 to see whether its mRNA antiviral therapy could be turned into an effective inhaled dry powder. Antivirals tend to be used to fight or cure a disease after someone has already gotten sick. A spokesperson for Emory University told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that he could not answer whether any of the work would be funded some other way or what the impact of the lost research would be to the public. I don't think I've seen a more dangerous decision in public health in my 50 years in the business, says Mike Osterholm, a University of Minnesota expert on infectious diseases and pandemic preparations. Pandemic preparations. Remember, let's go back in time prior to COVID-19 roiling the world. We disbanded our pandemic response unit. Was that a more dangerous decision in public health, Mike? I'm just wondering, because if what RFK Jr. is doing now is more dangerous than that, in your expert opinion, sir? Well, I'm sorry. I'm just scared shitless. I mean, COVID was bad. COVID killed a lot of people. I mean, this is where we are, folks. We have a president of the United States who has strong opinions about just about everything. I mean, my God, he brings up crap that involves pro sports leagues and what teams should do. Like nobody gives a shit, dude. You're the president of the United States. Don't you have pressing issues, more important things to have strong takes on, informed takes on? You get a presidential daily briefing every day. Do you even read it? A lot of people in your first administration said you didn't. But this is what happens. We have a president with a strong opinion about everything consequential or inconsequential that hits his radar because he has the attention span of a gnat. And then he appoints people with strong opinions on various topics to the various topics they have strong opinions about, whether they are qualified or not. And so here we are. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has strong opinions on mRNA research and technology. He went to YouTube, I think it was. He criticized mRNA vaccines in a video on his social media accounts, explaining the decision to cancel projects being led by the nation's top pharmaceutical companies, including Pfizer and Moderna, that offer protection against viruses like the flu, COVID-19, and H5N1. To replace the troubled mRNA programs, we're prioritizing the development of safer, broader vaccine strategies like whole virus vaccines and novel platforms that don't collapse when viruses mutate, Kennedy said in the video. In this article that I'm citing, again from the AP, infectious disease experts say the mRNA technology used in vaccines is safe, and they credit its development during the first Trump administration with slowing the 2020 coronavirus pandemic. Future pandemics, they warned, will be harder to stop without the help of mRNA. Mike Osterholm, again, the Minnesota scientist, noted that mRNA technology offers potential advantages of rapid production, crucial in the event of a pandemic that requires a new vaccine. The shelving of the mRNA projects is short-sighted as concerns about a bird flu pandemic continue to loom, said Dr. Paul Offit, a vaccine expert at Children's Hospital in Philadelphia. It certainly saved millions of lives, he said, of the existing mRNA vaccines. Last line in the article. Scientists are using mRNA for more than infectious disease vaccines, with researchers around the world exploring its use for cancer immunotherapies. At the White House earlier this year, billionaire tech entrepreneur Larry Ellison praised mRNA for its potential to treat cancer. Now, forgive me, I'm going to pivot to mental health and guns here. From the same Atlanta Journal-Constitution article written by Alexa Stevens and Shadi Abu Said, we now focus on the killer. Many lingering questions remained under investigation by the GBI, although White's family, that would be Patrick Joseph White, the suspected CDC shooter, hasn't spoken publicly. His suicidal thoughts have been reported to Cobb police at least 3 times, reports obtained by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution show. In September 2024, White told an officer he was in pain, and it had gotten worse since he received the COVID-19 vaccine, a report states. Kenneth White had called police from the family's Kennesaw area home to say his son had taken one of his guns, according to the report. Patrick stated that he was in a lot of pain and stated that he had surgery 10 years ago and his back is no good, the report states. I seem to remember something about Luigi Mangione in that situation too. He stated that he does not want to die. He stated that he got the COVID shot and that his health has been bad ever since. So is it the back pain? Is it the COVID-19? Mental unwell? Kenneth White, I believe that's his dad, told officers his son had seen numerous doctors, but they could not find anything physically wrong with him, except maybe depression, the police report states. My God, if only we had red flag laws. An incident report from April states police were called to check on Patrick White after he called a crisis line saying he'd been drinking and taking his medication. When officers arrived, he told them he had called the line, quote, just to talk to someone. The 988 hotline, right? And we pulled some funding from that, too, if I remember correctly. Officers noted he did not appear intoxicated and no further action was taken. On July 21st, Kenneth White again called police to report his son had left the previous evening and sent a message indicating he planned to kill himself. A report states Patrick White later returned home. After learning about the shooting at the CDC on Friday, Kenneth White again called police. He was worried his son was the shooter and he contacted multiple agencies for help that day. Cobb 911 calls released to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on Monday included an 11:26 p.m. call from Kenneth White. I'm very worried that he might have been involved in this shooting today, he tells the operator, adding he had called DeKalb County's emergency line 3 times and left detailed information, but, quote, no one has ever called us back. I don't know if he was involved. I need some help. We live in a nation where one amendment to the U.S. Constitution handcuffs an entire party into intransigence and dares the other party to do a damn thing about it. It's the only amendment, by the way, that is untouchable by either party. Like, there, no way, shape, form, or fashion, no way in hell can anything be done. Well, because of the Second Amendment. Well, sorry, can't do anything about it. Second Amendment. We have twists and turns and carve-outs for the First Amendment. We have twists and turns and carve-outs for all the other amendments. Due process, chief among them here of late, right? Naturalized citizenship. It's open for discussion. Second Amendment, don't you fucking dare. Oh, and now the Supreme Court is apparently willing to consider looking at marriage equality again, too. I mean, listen, I'm a divorced gay guy. Maybe it's my position in life that just makes me go, But at the same time, equal rights just don't seem to matter to MAGA. They don't seem to matter to conservatives. They think that equal rights to those who didn't have them all along are billed as extra rights to them. There's nothing extra about them. It's just a matter of providing equality. It's not even like a giant pizza where some of the pizza is being taken away from you to give to others. There's just more pizza. We like pizza. I like pizza. Marriage, I'm less sold on at this point, again, as a divorced guy. But, the concept, I know same-sex couples who are married and are shining examples of loving couples, raising kids even, being fantastic stewards to society. And yet now the Supreme Court's willing to take up marriage equality like it's back on the table. So much for established precedent. But then again, we know that with Roe, too. We knew that. We knew that was potentially the next shoe to drop, and Clarence Thomas has been licking his chops. Again, to be the shining example of the I got's mine crowd. I call it the treehouse effect. He's up the treehouse, he got his, pull up the rope. Nobody else need enter. This is The Ron Show, America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn. You can follow The Ron Show on your preferred social media platforms, at Ron Show ATL, Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Substack, and Blue Sky. I knew I was forgetting one. And I really need to tie them all so that I can just go to the one and they all, because my God. Sorry. I've had this brain fog of late where, I launched a streaming audio station of my own. And so, it's music intensive. It's all it's very local for Atlanta. And so I've been super busy. I've also had a couple of real estate transactions. My mind has been spread ridiculously thin for, as thin as it already is, right? And so, unfortunately, this show is sort of, I hate to say backseat because there's been so much that's going on, but I have taken time off when I've had the opportunity to, when the headlines give me the grace of being less cataclysmic, chaotic than usual in the last 7 months of the first 7 months of the Trump presidency. But unfortunately, that means that things like staying on top of social media just is not, unfortunately, my thing. I have wanted to really dive into, and maybe I will at some point in time, this whole national guardianization, this militarization of domestic police forces. Washington, D.C., for example, this is par for the course. Because he sees it, because Donald Trump can see it, it's a problem for him. Caitlyn Jenner came to my mind, honestly. I know that's weird. When this whole, oh my God, there's homeless people sleeping in the parks and yada, yada, yada. Get them out of there. Well, that's not the solution. Listen, as a residential realtor, I can tell you something. If you have mold detected in your house, the solution isn't to paint over the mold. That doesn't get rid of the mold. And I'm not equating homeless people to mold, okay? They're not a fungus. I'm just saying that there's a larger problem that needs to be addressed, and covering it up isn't going to fix it. Atlanta has a history, by the way, of doing the same thing, believe it or not, when it comes to its homelessness problem. Before the 1996 Olympics, we just bust the homeless out, and we didn't like the blight of housing projects, so we got rid of the housing projects. Okay, well, that doesn't solve housing issues in Atlanta. Now, did it? Some, 30 years later. And the same is to be said for this. It's tearing down encampments and moving people out. It doesn't solve homelessness in Washington, D.C. or anywhere else. And you've got FBI agents and National Guard units now coming into Washington, D.C. who aren't going to have dick to do because they're not equipped to handle this. Police, in particular, aren't really equipped to handle homelessness. You know who is? Mental health experts, advocates, people who work for nonprofit organizations to address homelessness. That's why, when the whole defund the police movement, misnomered, obviously, started getting its clapback from the right, you had to point out, well, what we really want to do is increase funding for things that people who go to police academies, 8, 12, 16-week academies to come out and be officers, they're just not equipped to do because they're not psychologists, they're not psychiatrists, they're not mental wellness civil servants, they're not doctors. Those are needs that have to be met on the ground as well. You're not going to just eliminate homelessness by getting people out of your line of sight. Caitlyn Jenner, Donald Trump. Caitlyn Jenner had said something, I think it was on Twitter X years ago, about, the homelessness in California. This place has just gone to because of all the homeless people. Well, yeah, I guess when you shutter mental institutions in California, as Governor Ronald Reagan did back then, and you spill people out, where are they going to go? This is a problem that can't be fixed simply by just moving them around. Like peas on the plate, right? Look, I ate all my peas. Well, some of my, you didn't touch them. The pile just got moved around the plate. That's not a solution. MAGA doesn't ever come with solutions, though. The GOP doesn't have solutions for tough issues. They have it for a long time, honestly. The only thing they come with are tax cuts and hyper-policing and tougher adjudication efforts and hyper-militarization. We're not solving anything. Putting more National Guardsmen and FBI officers in the role of police in major cities isn't going to undo the last 75 years of the post-segregation white flight movement that left economies hollowed out, opportunities gone for generations of inner-city residents who naturally turn to crime as a last resort. Because crime exists where opportunity doesn't. And when have we heard an idea come from the Republican Party in the last 50 years to positively address that? Outside of arrest them, throw them in prison. And by the way, the prisons have sort of become the codified mental institutions. So Donald Trump and bringing the national, this doesn't solve anything. And the sad thing is, I saw a piece in the AJC today about, experts say that a police takeover of the Atlanta Police Department by the federal government is unlikely. Bruh, we're only 7 months, not even set. We're into our 7th month in the Trump presidency, and there is a lot of we didn't think that he'd be able to executive order and convince people that he could do and get their backing from. But we said this in the run-up to the 2024 election. There are no guardrails with this man now. He has abandoned them all and has shirked the party, shook them out. His daughter-in-law was the GOP chair. All those guardrails are gone now. He can do whatever the hell he wants. Good, bad, or otherwise. You thought it was scary letting the crazy man drive the bus in the first presidency? Well, now you don't have to wear a seatbelt. And he doesn't have to adhere to red lights. All right, so I'm sorry. going on and on and on. And I apologize. I'm just sort of in a rambling mood today. But this federal takeover. I mean, what happened? Well, first of all, where are my Second Amendment people at? The overreach, the federal overreach folks who are like, the reason the Second Amendment exists is so that we can stand up to government tyranny. Well, where the are you? I'm not seeing you, not hearing you. No evidence of your existence whatsoever. I mean, this is something shy of martial law, but I'll be damned. It feels a lot like martial law in Washington, D.C. right now, doesn't it? You have federal FBI agents and National Guard troops rolling in to police the city. Where are my martial law people, my Second Amendment people? God, again, another hypocrisy uncovered from the MAGA movement. But hey, to his credit, at least we're not talking about the Epstein files, so good on him. Audio of Jeff Duncan considering running for governor in Georgia. We have that when the Ron Show returns.
This is the Ron Show on America One Radio.
Let me just go ahead and say this now. Progressives in Georgia are already not excited about the gubernatorial field right now as it stands. They're not. And also, somehow, neither are moderate centrist Democrats. Although I think there seems to be some sort of, okay, well, this could work reaction to DeKalb CEO Mike Thurmond joining the race. Full disclosure, I had an interview, I aired it yesterday and over the weekend on Progressive Voices, by the way, with Jason Estevez that I recorded 10 a.m. Friday morning. And I had about 25 minutes. Normally, I get a full show with a candidate of that nature because I think it's important. I think there are a lot of things to cover. And I didn't get to cover a lot of things with him. I really, honestly, in hindsight, kind of got to do the small talk generic stuff. And I would have loved another 25 minutes with the guy. But at the same time, it was my interview. Like, I'm the one that asked for it. I set up the Zoom. And there were no parameters. I wasn't told what I couldn't talk about or anything like that. And yet I like in hindsight, I just don't feel like I really dug in too much. And there are folks who are not happy with the state of the 2026 Democratic field because they don't feel like there is someone who's not a centrist Democrat on the ticket. You know what? I've voiced some concerns about Jason Estevez introducing a third way Democrat at a conference. What was it was it May? I think it was May. I voiced him. I was like, wait, why is he introducing a third way Democrat? Why is he introducing that guy? Who, by the way, I also had him on the show. And we didn't agree on, well, we actually agreed on a lot of stuff, honestly. It was more about messaging. But I think at the end of the day, we found ourselves like, okay, so, maybe we just don't need to have candidates filling out these surveys from organizations that are going to radicalize the responses one way or the other. Okay, fine. That's cool. But at the end of the day, I myself, a progressive, have sort of decided I like what I see of Jason Estevez, mostly because I think he is winnable. I think he is a winning package. He puts off the look of a winner. Successful businessman, married to a successful businesswoman, beautiful kids, former teacher, former APS school board member, chair. There's a lot of boxes that he checks off. He would be the first black governor, would be the first Latino governor. I'm getting Obama vibes. Like literally, which actually, now that I think about it, with some progressives, it might actually sour them even more. But I also happen to think in Georgia, I think you kind of got to be. I don't want to say. I hesitate to say moderate, but I don't hesitate to say you can't be AOC, male or female. You can't be the male version of you can't be AOC and win a statewide office in this state. I do believe that. I've said this for a while. We're not a purple state. We're not a blue-leaning purple. We are a purpley red state, and maybe that's getting better over time. But I think some of the progress towards being that legit purple state or purple-blue state or even a blue state is hindered by the party itself being unable to coalesce around a candidate. I had a conversation earlier today via text message that I'm going to leave a lot of off the show because I really don't know how much of it I can put on the show. She actually did tell me some of what I could say. I shared this clip, this screen grab I got from Greg Bluestein at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on his Twitter X platform. I believe this is from today's Politically Georgia. He wrote, somebody wrote, in Georgia's Democratic primary for governor, candidates Jason Estevez and Keisha Lance Bottoms are linked more with former President Joe Biden than Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the progressive leader from New York. Meanwhile, Michael Thurmond doesn't exactly hail from the liberal wing of the Democratic Party. That all raises the question, is there room in the 2026 governor's race for a more AOC-like contender? I wondered where this was really coming from, honestly. I thought it was like, well, this is weird. I've not really heard a whole lot of scuttlebutt about progressives being unhappy with at least one, or finding happiness in at least one of the candidates. I literally thought, I was like, well, yeah, I think at the end of the day, Jason Estevez just seems to check off enough boxes that he's going to make everybody happy. Here's the last paragraph of this clip. I said, lately, we've heard growing chatter about a potential bid by State Representative Ruwa Rahman, the Duluth Democrat firmly rooted in the party's left flank. Rahman isn't commenting, but we've seen polling that tests her as a potential candidate. So I sent this to her and I said, I told you you're a rising star. And I believe she is. I like Ruwa a lot. I like Representative Rahman. She responds, LOL, are you the chatter? And the next text she sends me is, but yeah, seriously considering it. And we went a little back and forth about that. I like her. I like her a lot. I agree with her on a lot of issues. I agree with her on messaging and that the party needs to stick to its values, its principles, its priorities, its platform, something that I don't think a lot of centrist and moderate Democrats do, or at least they how do they posit it? Oh, they posit it as, we've got to have pragmatic solutions. Pragmatism belies getting something done. And pragmatism, the Democratic brand of pragmatism anyway, hasn't been able to get a whole lot of shit done since 2016. 2014, if you count the midterms. It's that pragmatic leaning towards the center, trying to woo the center right, that has actually addled the party at just about every level of governance. I asked her, I said, are you interested in like a congressional run? Like, I don't even know what congressional district she lives in. She's not interested in Congress. And here's the reason why I asked her that. I asked her that because I actually think that that's something of a next step that is attainable for her. I do not. And I love me some Ruwa Rahman. I adore her. I said that. And I said a lot I'm going to say to you too. I do not think she can win a statewide race. I said that about Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's not a slight, and I begged her not to take it that way, and she said she didn't. Listen, I've lived in Georgia almost all of my life. I've lived in the South 51 years, all of my life. I know how Southern state voters are wired. I know what can win, I know what does win, and I know what absolutely doesn't. Stacey Abrams came within a whisker of winning the governor's race in 2018. And who knows, if the guy she was trying to beat weren't the Secretary of State overseeing the elections in the state, maybe she would have. Just going to say that and leave it there. Stacey Abrams came within a whisker of winning the governor's race in Georgia. An African-American female. Okay? She also took a step back in 2022. Didn't do nearly as well. I happen to think, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I happen to think that Georgia's voters, in general, are not going to vote in a majority to elect a Palestinian-American woman to the governor's office in the state of Georgia. And that's not a knock on her because I think she's a bright woman. I think her energy is exactly what the Democratic Party needs. Remember, she was the one being bantied about to give the Palestinian-American speech at the Democratic National Convention and got stifled by the DNC on that. I think she's a rising star. just don't think a governor's office is something that she can win. But she did confirm to me that she is considering it. She even gave me a potential date if she's going to do it, when she'll announce it. Of which I said, you've got the show. Give you the whole thing. You want to unroll your announcement or do it? You got the full show. And she knows that I support at least one premise of what she's trying to do. Number one, she wants to win. She literally wants to win. I'm fine with that. No politician should run for office and not think they're going to win. Donald Trump did that in 2016 and accidentally won. But the other part that I full-throatedly, wholeheartedly back her on is having someone on the dais at the Atlanta Press Club debates during the primary season, et cetera, and so on, having someone espouse some progressive values, some progressive ideas. It's like her, State Senator Josh McLaurin, who, by the way, is running for lieutenant governor, Gabriel Sanchez, who is the Democratic Socialist, and the word socialist, that freaks people out. I mean, the progressive movement isn't dead. It doesn't have great numbers, but it doesn't have zero numbers either. But there's a lot of pushback. Oh my gosh, y'all, a lot of pushback. I mean, it's funny. Like, I see more energy, and this is not a Georgia Democrat thing. This is a national Democrat thing. I see more energy from Democrats, and have for most of my life, trying to win over the center-right than I have trying to placate, win over, coalesce with its left flank. The progressives, the Our Revolution people. Immediately in the aftermath of Hillary Clinton losing in 2016, the Bernie Bros did it. I hate to break this to you, and I've said this a million times off the air and on. The Bernie Bros did better for Hillary Clinton in 2016 than her Pumas did for Barack Obama in 2008. Is the difference just that she didn't win, that it matters more? And wouldn't that actually speak to the candidate and less to whatever detractors there were within our base? I mean, today I saw a prominent South Georgia Democrat opining on his Facebook page that Charlie Bailey, the state party chair, should hold a press conference and welcoming Jeff Duncan to the Democratic Party. No, that's a non-starter. It's a bad idea. Dumb take. Sorry. Just going to say it. Not smart. For a number of reasons. Well, for one, Jeff Duncan has blood on his hands. Jeff Duncan is responsible for a lot of the bad bills and laws that exist in this country and needs to come hat in hand and provide a mea culpa, like a legit you know what? This was wrong. He actually was on the Politically Georgia podcast. I have some audio of that where he did say that he sort of let his personal beliefs inject governmental policy and that maybe he shouldn't have done that, or maybe that's not what the GOP should be doing. But he also said that the GOP is not the party of ideas. There's no room for ideas in the GOP. And I'll get to some of that audio here in just a little bit. But I want to go back to this. We should hold a press conference with Charlie Bailey. Well, no, because at the same time, also Jeff Duncan is talking about potentially running for governor. And if the Democratic Party is holding a press conference with Jeff Duncan, and then Jeff Duncan decides to run for governor, well, then Charlie Bailey and the Democratic Party of Georgia have given a candidate an unfair advantage that the rest, who are actual Democrats and have been for a long time, didn't get themselves. And we're back at 2016 DNC shenanigans, but at the state level. Anyway, back to State Representative Ruwa Roman, who, when I'm having this conversation with her, I felt bad. I felt like I was, that very realist, grounded parent of a minority kid with, impoverished and yada, yada, yada. I want to be, an astronaut. Son, you don't have what it takes to be an astronaut, or all these impediments exist that keep you from being an astronaut, it's less about Ruwa Roman or the energy or the ground game that she can produce in her district. I don't know about outside her district because I know she can do that. It just speaks more to what I know about the voters in the state of Georgia. And I'm fully behind her getting on the Democratic gubernatorial primary debate dais to espouse progressive values. I just don't think Georgia's ready for a candidate like her. Back after this. All right, final 10 minutes or so. Today's Ron Show. Jeff Duncan going on the Politically Georgia podcast, which is an Atlanta Journal-Constitution podcast. I believe he's on their payroll, if not a private contractor, because he does contributions for them from time to time, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't do them for free. Nonetheless, when Jeff Duncan is ready to actually speak to and with Democrats, this show is one of the few that exists in the state where he is welcome to do so, and I've reached out to every known email address, social media account with his name on it, his name attached to it, that leads to him, and it's been crickets. But he's welcome on this show, and I'm gonna do what I think is going to be a fair interview. It'll probably be tougher than the one that I gave Jason Estevez. I know that. I'm sorry. But he did go on Politically Georgia, and he talked about running for governor. He was flat out asked, and he did not deny that he's interested in it. Patricia Murphy with the query.
Are you planning to run for office? Are you talking to anybody about running for office in 2026?
From a political aspiration side, we'll see. I certainly have not made any decisions yet. It's a big decision to run for office. I've got 2 kids in college now. I've got 1 starting high school. But we're certainly having the discussion in our house, and here's why. Because for months, I've had Democrats, independents, and even some Republicans encourage me to consider running for higher office because at the end of the day, I think a majority of Georgians are seeking somebody who can make common sense decisions, that shows up as a nonpartisan as often as they possibly can, and is really good at turning chaos into conversations. To me, that's the best way to move forward as a state, because Georgia has an opportunity here. I think as we approach 26, we not only are going to figure out, are we going to have a Democrat that is the governor that can come in and put things on the scales of truth and justice and wisdom?
You said governor.
Justice and moderation, to quote our flags and motto. Or are we going to have Governor Donald Trump? And then whoever MAGA decides to pick as their flavor of the year after him. That's the real juxtapose.
So you're considering a run for governor as a Democrat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm converting to Judaism, and I want to be a rabbi now. Isn't that just asinine?
But I don't want this to be my idea. I didn't call myself and say months ago, hey, Jeff, why don't you think about running for governor as a Democrat? This came from folks that have invested their entire life into the Democratic Party, who have paid attention to how the policies are shaping up. And I'm certain I'm not the perfect candidate to do it, right?
We agree.
Certainly. I've been a Republican for obviously a number of years.
And as lieutenant governor, chaired the state Senate that led to a lot of the laws that are on the books now that have hampered Georgia's ability to come together.
But I do think this is a unique opportunity in Georgia for us to really kind of take a deep breath and to put Democrats back in the idea business. Not these deep national partisan corners that just pit the outside left to the outside right, but really empower Democrats to come up with big solutions.
Big solutions? That sounds like progressivism. Like universal health care. That's a big idea. It's a big solution, right? Huh. I mean, how are you going to run as a centrist, moderate, establishment Democrat and then talk about big ideas? Because big ideas go to die in the middle.
Think about this. How many Georgians are 1 prescription away from being able to have a full-time job?
Imagine if this guy had been lieutenant governor and had the opportunity to present Medicaid expansion as a viable option while in the office of lieutenant governor. Oh, wait, he was.
How many Georgians are 1 roof over their head away from being able to get their family back together? How many Georgians are 1 certification or 1 class away from getting a full-time job or a career? I think as we look at how we elect our next governor in Georgia, I think we got to find somebody who's willing to invest in all Georgians.
You had that chance.
I think there's an opportunity here. I think we've got a $17 billion rainy day fund because of some very conservative budgeting practices, but also because we've had an extremely strong economic growth period of time. But I think using some of that money to invest back in Georgians into some of those programs to help hunger, homelessness, all of those issues, healthcare.
Oh, yeah, the Medicaid expansion.
I think there's an opportunity to do something special here. Whether that's me or somebody that I can support, I'm all for it.
All right, low on time, but I want to get to this question that Greg Bluestein brought up about reproductive rights. Because, again, this guy has a record. He was a lieutenant governor when a lot of stuff got passed that Democrats aren't happy about.
About 10 Democrats sent me separately a tweet I had sent that I don't remember writing back in 2019 at the signing of the anti-abortion law that Governor Kemp signed into office when you were lieutenant governor, when you were president of the Senate. And it includes a quote from you saying, "It's about policy, not about politics. We aren't here because we read this in a political playbook. We are here because we support life." And that was about the anti-abortion restrictions that banned most abortions in Georgia after about 6 weeks. To a lot of Democrats, just supporting that any sort of restrictions, let alone that one, on abortion is a deal breaker.
Non-starter.
How do you kind of reconcile that past with where you stand on that issue now?
Well, I think the reality is, our laws in this state should represent a majority of Georgians.
I thought we didn't like mob rule. I mean, there's something to be said about ensuring that the least among us, the marginalized, aren't legislated against by a majority just because they're the majority. That's why we elect politicians to make sound decisions for the good of all of the constituents instead of just the majority and what the majority feels like they're for at that point in time.
And regardless of what my personal faith-driven thoughts and ideas are around issues like abortion and other issues that are out there, I think we've got to get to a spot where we represent a majority of Georgians. And I think looking back at the heartbeat bill and looking at the current abortion laws in Georgia, there's a couple of things that need to be relitigated, right? I think first and foremost, the ambiguity between what doctors get to determine and women get to determine based upon health throughout the course of the pregnancy needs to be very, very clear. And it's not at this particular moment in time. And I also think we need to find a spot that represents a majority of Georgians' opinion.
Well, he works at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution occasionally, where they reported last October that a plurality of likely Georgia voters, 45%, say that they want to make abortion easier to obtain. That's according to the poll, which found that about half of young voters and broad majorities of women, Black Georgians, and independents want to relax restrictions on the procedure. Only 16% of voters support more limits on abortion, and about 25% seem to be okay with the abortion ban that's in place currently today. So while you may not have a majority, you definitely have a majority that don't want the current restrictions in place or want them lessened. But again, Jeff Duncan's signature is on the current law, y'all.
A lot of the pushback on the heartbeat bill has been at 6 weeks, when a heart fetal tissue is recognized, that most folks don't even know that they're pregnant yet. And so I don't think that matches, at least from the Georgians that I've heard.
Or medical experts.
So I think we've got to get to a spot where we represent a majority of Georgians, not just one certain sector of an opinion. And so, as far as I'm concerned, if somebody wanted to come back and relitigate that, one way to love my neighbor is to agree to disagree and to try to figure out a way to find compromise. And I think there's a lot more compromise out there than just the heartbeat.
I know another way to love your neighbor is to say, you know what, I was wrong and I'm sorry. Let's fix this.
So is your support for that bill back in 2019 a mistake now?
No, I think the mistake was that I mistook my personal views and thought that every Georgian should have those personal views.
Oh, okay. Let's tear apart the anatomy of that. No, he didn't mistake his views, his values. He didn't obviously mistake his own values. No, he imparted his values, his beliefs on others while in office. Parse that now. He didn't mistake. There was no mistaking. Those were his views. Those are probably still his views.
I think there's probably a better opportunity to have a bigger discussion with more Georgians, and we would have probably found a more common ground than 6 weeks.
I mean, is he aware that the party that he was in control of, and by the way, led one of the chambers as lieutenant governor, had the opportunity to have those little side sessions, those little hearings, and kept how many times would the legislation be in session the last couple of years this show has been on, and we'd be covering this ad nauseum. His party, the party that he was in control of largely as lieutenant governor in the legislature, had every opportunity and decided they didn't want to have hold hearings on this sort of thing. Back then, when he was lieutenant governor, they passed this law knowing it had no effect because of Roe v. Wade. They were uninterested in doing responsible legislating. That was the lieutenant governor of the state of Georgia at that time, a fellow by the name of Jeff Duncan, who is now a Democrat. And hey, dude, again, this isn't about me saying, nope, you're not welcome here. Although I still maintain, by the way, he could be more effective if he stayed in the Republican Party to help retake the Republican Party from MAGA nuttiness. No, this is more about me saying, bro, you just got in the building. Wait, why are you even taking your shoes off? Wait, why are you kissing on my old lady? Wait, why are you calling my kid's mom yours? That's not your dog. Yeah, dude, have a seat. You just got in the building. And now you're already talking about running for governor? Bro, it's a non-starter. It just is. And I don't care how many centrists or moderates say, oh, this is a good idea. No, it won't. Whatever gains you think you're making, you'll lose in triplet on the left of the party. That's going to do it for today's Ron Show. We air weekdays 9 a.m., 5 p.m. on America One Radio, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn, wherever you podcast. Show notes, as always, at ronshowatl.com. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.